Welcome back. Taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders Countdown. Talking some Penguins, talking some Steelers, even some college basketball if you feel like it. We'll jump into all of it. Let's go to Sammy in Greenfield. Sammy, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, good evening. Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year to you also.
I just have a question about the Steelers game tomorrow. What difference does it make if we win or lose tomorrow? And does it play an effect on the playoffs? Because I know that we're going into the playoffs regardless, but will it make a difference? Will we get home field advantage? Or, what difference does it make if we win or lose tomorrow? Would you be able to explain, please?
I can do that. Thanks for the call. If the Steelers were to win tomorrow and the Patriots were to lose to the Jets, then the Steelers take over the #1 spot in the AFC, which means they get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That is why winning this game is important. Now, if they lose this game and, say, New England loses to the Jets, then you miss out on that opportunity. However, if they lose, their position is not affected. They can't move down. They can only move up. So losing won't hurt them. But I should say winning or losing this game doesn't dictate what happens with them. What happens with the Patriots is what makes winning or losing tomorrow more important. So it's easier to just assume win the game, worry about the rest later. Control the stuff that you can control, win the game that's in front of you. If the Patriots lose to the Jets, bonus. You end up #1. But it doesn't matter if you don't win the game first. Both things have to happen for that to be important. Tony in Wilkinsburg, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, being as though the Steelers and Baltimore are rivals too, would it have made a difference if James Harrison would have went to Baltimore, if they would have gave him an offer? Do you think all this smack talk on each other would have even occurred if Baltimore would have gave him an offer?
I think so. Baltimore's a rival. Now, maybe not as much. He does have a history with Baltimore if you want to go all the way back to the beginning of James Harrison's career, around the 2002-2003 era. He had been with the Steelers. Steelers had cut him. Goes and signs with Baltimore. I think he was on their practice squad. Baltimore cuts him. He comes back to the Steelers, joins the team, and then he doesn't leave. So he does have a history with Baltimore. I think if he goes to the Ravens, there are some raw feelings there, being that's the Ravens. However, since he has a past relationship with Baltimore, having employed him even for a short period of time, I don't think there would have been as many hard feelings. I don't think people see Baltimore as much as of a playoff threat as they do the Patriots. I do think there would be some raw feelings. However, here's the one thing I do think would be the same. I think the feelings of his teammates, knowing what happened and knowing what we're hearing now in retrospect and the things that he said about what he was disappointed about and how his teammates felt, I think some of it still comes out. I don't know if it comes out right away. Maybe it doesn't come out till after the season's over. Maybe it doesn't come out till later on. I don't know if it comes out as quickly or maybe with as much energy, so to speak. But the way the timeline unfolded and what James Harrison said on his side, what his teammates said on that side, maybe it goes down a little bit differently. Maybe the timing is different. But I think in the end it still comes out. So, yes, I think we still eventually find out what happened, or at least find out the two different sides of the story. We will go to Josh in Bethel Park. Josh, great name. Well, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. I called in to ask about your thoughts on the Penguins maybe getting rid of Letang.
Well, that's a good question, and thanks for the call. Josh, you remind me of me more than you'll ever know. The thoughts on Kris Letang being moved, we've heard reports in the past couple days that the team is confirming that he is not being shopped, even though a couple of national writers have said that people are interested in him. The fact that he's injured right now probably pushes it to the side. And maybe it's a situation of not that they're not trying to move him. Maybe they're just not trying to move him right now because an injured guy may not have as much trade value. I would not be surprised if it comes up again down the road. How far down? It could be a month from now. It could be next season. We don't really know. But it could come up again in discussion. It could be talked about. It could be a situation that pops up again. I think the fact that he's injured and he's on injured reserve kind of changes that whole dynamic, and you kind of set that to the side for now. But it would not surprise me if we heard about it a second time. Let's go to Bob in Beachview. Bob, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, Josh. I was busy this week and couldn't watch the show, but I did listen to it. I heard from the show that Belichick can use Harrison to rush the passer, which he's great at, but can he compensate for his inability to fall back and cover receivers? And is he just playing with the Steelers' brains? I'll hang up and listen.
Bill Belichick doesn't seem like the type that's going to bring in a guy just for mental warfare. I think if he's bringing in a guy, he's going to find a job for him. Because remember, the mantra in New England is do your job. And if Bill Belichick can find a job, even if it's just a guy doing one thing, he will tell that guy, you go do that one thing and do it till we tell you to stop. That's where I think James Harrison comes in, because New England's had some issues as far as edge rushers all season. They can't seem to keep guys healthy or seem to keep them productive. So there is a fit for James Harrison in New England as a pass rusher, but that's the key, as a pass rusher. They're not going to drop him back into coverage because they know it's not his strength. They're going to tell him the thing that I would tell him if I had him on my team. See that dude behind center? Go get him and go get the ball. That's what they're going to tell him to do. That's what they expect him to do. I expect him to do it maybe a few times a game. And who knows? He might even be good at it. Got to take another break. We will wrap up when we come back. Stick around.